Joining us by phone today is Zak Ward of the Million Projects, Zak Ward and the $1 Million Question. Zak, I feel like you're involved in everything. Like every time I hear of a new band, I'm like, Zak Ward's probably in that. You are one of the busiest musicians that I know. What keeps you going?
Well, I like a challenge. I don't know, man. I grew up doing theater. And my parents were both artists, so I always I was brought up hustling, so that's kind of always what I'm doing, always looking for the next job and trying to stay active, The pandemic kind of threw a big monkey wrench in everything, and I had to do a lot of pivoting, but I'm very happy to be making music now with the new project called The $1 Million Question. And we're working on a record, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever done, so I'm super pumped on it.
Very, very cool. Now, Zak, you're known for doing a lot of covers, but you do your original stuff as well. Is $1 Million Question an original band, a cover band, a little bit of both?
So, yeah, it's a little bit of both. So this newest thing is like, okay, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not expecting, Barry Gordy to call me and give me a record deal, so what do I want to do? And I wanted to, kind of step out of whatever rules that I had put in place for myself in the past. So that's the thing is like, oh, do you do originals or do you do covers? You got to pick one and run with it. And I was like, well, no, I'm going to do original music and then I'm going to do covers. And if we want to do it straight, we'll do it straight. But actually, what we've been doing a lot of is kind of reinterpreting songs and doing some sort of funky / Motown versions of songs and mixing things up. So this band for me is kind of like a playground where I can do wherever I want because why not?
Now, who else is in $1 Million Question with you?
So starting at the back of the stage, we've got Josh English, who plays drums with Grosh, who's a phenomenal drummer. The bass player, his name is Mike Johnston. He used to play with me in a band called Kurt and the Loaders, where we did 90s covers for a long time.
I remember.
Oh, yeah, we had a riot in that band.
You did. You did like
on guitar is...
You did like every genre, right? Didn't you do like industrial? Like you did like a whole industrial show or something?
We kind of did everything. It was real indulgent for us. So we did 2 Tool shows where we did, I got dressed up, right. I put a dress on and a wig, did full Tool. I mean, we did full shows dedicated to Foo Fighters, to Pearl Jam, to Weezer.
Love it.
We did everything, yeah. And then on guitar is Peter Hewer, who's a beast. He's the busiest musician in Buffalo right now. He's in every band. And then on keys is Jake Nicholson, who's also a monster and is a choir leader in his spare time, which is awesome.
Now, do you just start new bands as reasons to work with new people?
I mean, yeah. Why not? No. I tend, one of my problems is I'm very inconsistent with the style of what I like to do. So, if I play rock and roll for a few years, I'm like, I want to do something different. And so this was more of like, it's not like funk music, but it's my version of funk music. So it is. This was sort of I want to do a different kind of music. Let me put guys together that I think would fit that very well. Do
you have a favorite genre, or is it just whatever you're in the mood for at that particular moment?
Yeah, it's totally whatever I'm in the mood for. It's terrible because, you can't just play music. You have to be able to brand yourself and do all the other horse training and crap that you have to do. And I've always been not great at that because it's hard to have a consistent line of what you do and what you sound like. And it's hard to have people review your music and have it connect. My first solo EP is like, I took Shakespearean sonnets and stuff in the music. The second one's more like psychedelic pop. And then the EP I put out in 2023 is like very hard rock. And now I'm about to put out a funk record. So I'm a mess. It's a mess.
Nice. We're going to come back to Shakespeare in a minute. But before I do that, is there any genres you don't like? For example, I've never been able to get into country. I just can't do it. But like, give me opera or classical or jazz. Like I'm in all those. Country I have a mental block.
So when I was, I played music for a living for a bunch of years. And when it came to country music, I was like, I can do pretty much anything, but, old country is kind of the only country that I know. There's a difference in performing music versus listening to it, you know, as long as it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, I don't really care what the genre is. I mean, there's definitely things I gravitate towards, but no, I like the fact that I'm kind of open for anything, as long as it sounds unique and it sounds like the artist is doing what they want to be doing and not just, they're just trying to make money and nothing else.
One of the great things about playing a little bit of everything is, you know, Buffalo's got its bars, and each bar kind of has its niche, and you've played all of them, I think. Are there any bars you haven't played?
I mean, there's got to be some out there, but no, I mean, I was really lucky to be able to be, you know, I was kind of a hired gun for a little while, so I got to play, you know, I'd be on the folk sort of scene for a little bit, and then I never really did the country thing, but, you know, I've definitely gotten into Sportsman's a few times and went over and sat in with the Twang Gang over there. I've done, you know, I haven't really done too much hip-hop, but here and there I've done a little bit. I've collaborated on a couple of records. So I definitely have gotten around. I try not to limit myself if I can, but it was kind of a interesting thing. You know, over the past 4 years, I've kind of had to do the opposite. You know, I spent so long saying yes to everything. That was how I was trained. That was how I was brought up. Like, you say yes to everything. Mm-hmm. So you get into a lot of different situations that way, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I think Jim Carrey made a movie about that. It's pretty good. It was Zoe Deschanel.
Exactly. But lately I've been trying to be more focused now that I'm a dad, now that I have kids. After the pandemic, I had to switch and get I don't want to say a real job, but a different job where I work 9 to 5. So I've had to be way more focused, and deliberate with what I'm doing and where I'm playing now.
What is your real job?
So I got it, you know, when you need a job in Western New York, there's a couple places you can look, and Geico is one of them, and Ingram Micro is the other place as far as I was concerned. So I applied and luckily had a nice little career at Ingram Micro. They're a tech distributor here in Buffalo, and
interesting. Good
actually just left and went to work for a software company, and I just started this week.
Nice. So I try to do my due diligence when I, you know, talk to people. I want to know a little bit of what I'm talking about before I go into it. So, you know, like most professionals, I Googled Zak Ward, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a guy in Ohio by the name of Zak Ward who sells guitars.
Oh, yeah. I've met him. So
the other,
you're familiar with the movie A Christmas Story?
So the other Zak Wards are Scott Farkas from A Christmas Story, and there's an Irish rugby
100%,
player.
Yep.
And there's an Irish rugby player named Zak Ward, which I didn't realize.
I'm learning new things. I didn't know about the rugby player. I know the guy out of Toledo because, he used to work for Reverend Guitars. Now he makes his own guitars. He's a super nice dude. But yeah, like, that was honestly a thing. Like, I got ZakWard.com. He would have like MySpace /Zak Ward. Like, we went back and forth trying to like sort out how we had even if you go on iTunes, sometimes they mix up whose song is who, and it's a bit of a bother.
Interesting. By the way, the Zak Ward rugby player is Z-A-C as opposed to Z-A-K.
Well, see, this is my main beef with my man Zak Ward out of Toledo. I love him. He's a good dude, but if you look on my birth certificate, my full name is Z-A-K-A-R-Y. That's how my mom did it.
Right.
The Zak Ward out of Ohio voluntarily took the C out of his name.
Ah, what a jerk.
So we got beef.
Yeah.
We got beef there, Zach.
So if you ever want to fight him, just throwing this out there. Well, we're talking about people with similar names. There are several other Scott Loefflers out there. One of which used to be, I'm sure he's retired by now, but one of which was an MMA fighter. And about 15 years ago, I got a contract from MMA to do a fight because they thought that they had sent it to this other guy. And it was like $50,000 or something like that. And I like seriously considered it. I'm like, you know what? I could get my brains beat in for $50,000. That would come in handy. I didn't go on to do it. But there's also a Scott Loeffler who was a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. And
all right, so you're in good company.
Yeah. Like but I will tell you this: I have got all of the Scott Loeffler, the social medias, the web, like ScottLoeffler.com is me. I was first to grab all the things, so they're just going to have to deal with it.
That's smart. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. All right, so Zak Ward, Canadian actor from A Christmas Story, Scott Farkas. you have acting not only in your blood, but you do a lot of theater stuff in addition to the music. And I feel like that's not weird, but atypical. I feel like people tend to do either the music or the theater, but you seem to go in both directions. How did that come about?
So, my parents lived in New York City, and my dad got a job teaching theater at Niagara University, which is why my family moved to the area. So I grew up doing theater. That was always like what I was doing as a kid, and in high school, it's what I went to college for. So I've just always done that. And then, I found my passion playing music, and I did that for a long time. You're right, though. It's very hard to do both, because doing theater is so time consuming.
Oh, sure.
So I absolutely love it. But I've had to be very strategic about that too. And, it was manageable before I had kids. Now that I've got 2 daughters, and I really have to focus now just on playing music. But I've done a show, this year I'm not doing a show, but I've done one play or musical every year since 2015, I think. And,
really?
A bunch before that. But ever since living back in Buffalo, I pretty much did theater every year, and I love it. It's where I'm very, very comfortable because it's so familiar. But I'm not going to do anything, coming up yet here. But it's an absolute riot. I love doing theater, but like I was saying before, I've had to sort of pare it down. I've got maybe 2 to 3 good hours a week that I can dedicate to being creative at this point. So I got to put it all into music.
Now, when you say do theater, is this just acting? Do you direct? Do you want to be a producer? What? I feel like I'm kind of going off the rails here, but in all seriousness, is this because some of the things that I had read, it looked to me like you had a more in-depth role than simply as a part.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple of years ago, actually more, it's 6 years ago. I worked a lot with a company in Buffalo called Musical Fair. And they asked me to be the musical director and work on a show where a lovely man named Michael Walling, who's a director here in Buffalo, wrote a show that was all based on the music of Paul Simon. And that was a really special show. So I got to act in that, but I was also the music director and had a hand in sort of creating the show. And I loved it. I don't see how that's possible unless you can, submerge yourself in a project like that, 80 hours a week.
Right.
But anything I can, basically, I'll wrap my hands around it. If I can. Doing that Paul Simon show was a really, really special experience. To be able to create something new, was amazing. But in general, I usually just, act and either sing and dance in the shows.
Gotcha. Now, a few years ago, the Buffalo Bills reached out to you, and they're like, "Hey, we would like you to be the house band for the that's
the other thing that's super effing cool.
Yeah, while I was doing my due diligence, I ran across the story from Katie Lynch at WIVB, and I'm like how that's not fair. Other people want luck too,
yeah.
Zach.
The official band of the Buffalo Bills. That was a great call. That was 2016. I got married. I bought a house. I had a baby. Well, I didn't have a baby. My wife did. But and then somebody called a friend of mine and said, "Hey, do you want to manage? You want to have the official band of the Buffalo Bills? Do you know anybody?" And this is the benefit of just going out there and saying yes to everything for a bunch of years, because I refer to myself as sort of a regional D-list celebrity, so people know me, and somebody reached out and said, "Do you want to do this?"
Commercials.
Like, absolutely.
Mikey eats everything.
Absolutely. I was like, "Are you ready to do it?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I called up Jeff Schaller, who's in the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, who is a monster drummer, and Brad Robbins is our bass player, and we've played every home game since that 2016-2017 season, and it is an absolute riot.
Do you expect that to continue?
Yeah. So we kind of wait for the season to be announced and sort of reconfirm, but I have no reason to doubt that we'll be back again this year as the Believers, the official band of the Buffalo Bills. I'm really hoping they carved out a little corner for us in the new stadium, but we just kind of take it one season at a time.
Sure. Now, do you just play right there in the parking lot?
No, we're inside the stadium. We have a little stage, and it says the Believers on top, and we play inside the stadium pretty much right up until kickoff before the game.
Gotcha.
So we're in there playing Cheap Trick and Rolling Stones and the Doors and getting people rowdy and jumping up and down and singing along. And we end with the Killers. You gotta.
Oh, of course, yeah. The Sabres started doing that too, where they have a band. It's not the same band all the time, but they've got a band that comes and plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot of buddies that have done that. That seems like a super fun gig too.
Yeah. Very, very, very cool. So, Zach, I don't know if you know this, but over the years, you and your bands have taken home several All Western New York awards. I was going through our website. Now, in 2015, you came in second place for EP of the Year. What was the EP that year, 10 years ago?
Oh, my gosh. 10 years ago, I think That's What You Get.
All right. 10 EPs ago, right?
Well, again, so pre-pandemic might as well just be a cloud. I don't remember. Something happened. I have a very hard time remembering whether that was 3 years ago or 12 years ago.
Oh, dude, I feel you there.
Or maybe it was the Gallimaufry. I don't know. So I put out a couple of EPs, but the one was the Gallimaufry that was sort of the Shakespeare one, and then there was another one called That's What You Get. And if you're asking me to remember what happened 10 years ago, we're in trouble.
If I tell you something was last year, it was probably 2020.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so that was the EP of the Year, second place, 2015. The year before that, you got Best Cover Vocalist for Kurt and the Loaders. That was the All Western New York Radio pick for the year. 2018, you got Best Vocalist, an honorable mention. And then this year, the All Western New York Awards, just announced a little over a month ago, you and $1 Million Question came in third place for Best New Band. So you're just all over the place.
Oh, I knew we were nominated. I don't know if we got third place. I don't think I can swear, but that's awesome.
All right, you could swear, but you don't have to. It's okay. I'm a little disconcerted though that you didn't know. I feel like we might have put out a press release or something.
Well, I mean, maybe you tagged Zak Ward out of Ohio. I got to figure that out.
It is entirely fine.
I'll be pumping it out of the airwaves now.
He's probably got the certificate hanging up on his wall.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, I just can't even tell you how excited about the new band. I'm trying to do fewer because I can only do fewer shows, but sort of more larger shows where we're thinking about the visuals and we're trying to make it more of an experience. So we're doing some cool stuff.
I feel like that's kind of been a thing for you the past few years. Is you're doing these the big series that everybody knows about. And I know this year one of the big ones that you're doing is Larkinville.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's sort of been what I've been trying to do, and I'm happy it's been somewhat successful. But yeah, if I can't play all the time, I want to play and make it more fun and make it more impactful. But yeah, we're going to be covering all of Radiohead's The Bends album at Larkinville, in addition to a set of our sort of take on originals and covers. That's on July 9th, which I'm very, very stoked about. That's going to be a ton of fun. I'm a huge Radiohead fan.
All right.
In case no one knew that.
Speaking of Larkinville, this is like follow my convoluted train of thought here. I'm a huge Beatles fan, and the past couple of years I have missed out on Beatles on the rooftop at Larkinville because it sells out in like 4.5 seconds.
Yeah.
But you're friends with those guys, right? The Black Rock Beatles.
Oh yeah. That's Gino McManus and
right.
and Kathy Garfani and Frank. Yep.
You ever fill in?
You want to get you a pass?
No. But you ever fill in?
So I did a few David Bowie shows with Gino, which was really a ton of fun. But I made a promise to my wife that I would only do original stuff moving forward here. I've played with Gino over the years. I haven't filled in with the Black Rock Beatles. I've definitely played my share and many other people's share of Beatles songs.
I used to live for all intents and purposes.
With those guys.
I used to live for all intents and purposes next to Remington Tavern, and I would go there as many Mondays as humanly possible.
Yeah, so you've seen it. And I love Gino and I love Frank. But no, I haven't sat in with the Black Rock Beatles, but I've definitely played my share of Beatles tunes.
All right. I think I have asked you all the questions that I need answers to. If not, I'll send a guy over with a lead pipe, and we'll get more information out of you as needed. But is there
That's
anything?
Perfect. I'm from Niagara Falls, so that's our preferred method of communication.
Is there anything that you wanted to let folks know that I wasn't kind enough to ask you?
Just that the couple of shows coming up. June 20th, we're opening up for David Cloyd. He's a great local musician who is putting out a full-length album. That'll be at Duende. And then the Larkinville show on July 9th. Those are the big ones.
All right. And
awesome.
And you've got some new tunes you're going to be dropping here soon, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're working on a record. I was debating it, but I think I'm going to send you a sneak preview of our first song here. It is an instrumental, but it's a great tune. The record's not going to be coming out until later this year. We're going to be mixing it at GCR with Jay Zubricki, who's the best in town. And so I'll send you a little sneak preview of it so you can give the people a taste.
Sounds great. I appreciate it. Zach, thank you so much. And thanks for rolling with me on this. I know that we had some trouble getting this set up first on your end and then on my end and technical difficulties, and it's just 2025, man.
Hey, any way you make it work is the right way.
Exactly. All right, Zach, thank you so much. Have a great day, man.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.